Hey everyone, and welcome back to another Majesty video, and today we are doing Why It's Banned, United Sanctuary and Gold Paladin Edition. And today we will be looking at 7 cards and why they are either choice restricted or banned. And let's look at the choice restricted first, which is the United Sanctuary's Zeroth Dragon of Zenith Peak Ultima, or any version of the Overtrigger. Now, if we look at Zenith Peak Ultima's effect, all you have to do is CB2, look at 4 cards from your deck, call 2, and place 2 at the top of your deck. So, if you have the Overtrigger still in deck, you can stack the Overtrigger and a potential critical trigger on top and give 100 million to all of your units. So, if your board has, 3 extra Excel markers, you could be attacking for 7 attacks, potentially, with 100 million each. And if they're boosting, then that's 200 million. Not that it matters anyway, because the attack would just be too strong. Your opponent will have to PG it. It'll have to Elementaria or take at least, 3 damage or whatever amount of criticals that you have. At least 2 damage, because the extra trigger will be a critical, no doubt. This card is way too strong to not be choice restricted with the Overtrigger. I think United Sanctuary decks or Cater Sanctuary decks, like the Royals, Shadows, or whatever, would be way too strong. It would be played in every deck, and I think it would give them a good chance, but everybody would play them. So it's a very powerful effect, a very unfair effect if the Overtrigger is still in the game. So that is the choice restrictions in the United Sanctuary. The only choice restrictions in the specific United Sanctuary Nation banner. And if we go to the restricted as first Vanguard, we have Crimson Lion Cub Curve. Now this card is restricted as first Vanguard because it'll be too easy for you to superior ride into a grade 3 before your opponent. Having it as the way you have to hard draw it gives you that extra barrier that you need to slow down the strategy. And you need 2 other specific cards in specific zones to get that superior ride. So having it restricted as first Vanguard kind of slows it down. And people don't really run it anyway because it's too slow for the superior ride engine now. People normally run the V starter because it's an extra card and they don't have to worry about drawing specific pieces. There's easier ways to superior ride Ezel anyway, which Curve is just a bit too slow now with the restriction of the first Vanguard. And now we have the flat out bans of the Gold Paladins. We have Flame Wind Lion Wonder Ezel. Now we have to read this effect and really look at what this card does. When this card is placed on the rearguard circle, if your grade 3 Vanguard with Ezel in its name is stand, search your deck for up to 1 card with Ezel in its card name, write it as stand, shuffle your deck, and that unit gains 5,000 power until the end of turn. This card was printed in the G era and very much not thought of when Excel markers were created, because this card generates Excel markers like crazy. This card had to be banned. There's no way this could have been kept. Gold Paladins would have been getting at least +5, or at least Ezel decks would be getting +5 nearly every turn that this card would be placed. Because Gold Paladins can superior call this very easily, or just call it. If you have 4 copies in 1 turn, it's extremely, extremely powerful. Your hand size would be massive. Like, no advantage would be lost because, you're going hand neutral essentially by calling one and putting it, calling it. And it's just an amazing card, which cannot be unbanned because the Excel spam is just way too good. And we get Knight of Insulation Carinus. This card lets you draw and countercharge, and it's not a once per turn. If somehow you're able to stand this unit again, or if you have 4 copies with it, this card's very, very strong. Choose one of your units and it gains 4,000 power until end of turn, If you have a Vanguard with Gergwin in its name, choose one of your rear guards with a different name as this unit. You may put it to the bottom of the deck if you do draw a card and countercharge 1. Countercharge is very, very useful in Gold Paladins because it's a very counterblast heavy deck. And Carinus really helps out with the lack of hand that you'd be using, because normally in Premium you're discarding a lot, you're kind of giving up some slight hand advantage for field advantage. So this card would really help mitigate that, and very good, and too good to be unbanned, personally, and according to Bushiroad as well. And now we have the interesting ones, Bluish Flame Liberator Percival and Oath Liberator Agavale. These two cards have different restrictions depending on what language of the game that you play. Percival is restricted to 1 in the Japanese version and banned in the Japanese, and banned in the English version of the game. I can understand why it's restricted to 1, because if you only have 1, you can only really do it once, and it's a hard once per turn anyway. So Percival could be limited in that way. It's just an extra Excel circle in Premium, but I can also see why the English version thought that would be a bit too much. Too much advantage, because it's an instant Excel circle instead of Savas's the best deck in V right now. Savas's extra Excel circle at the end of the turn. I think the English edition thought that was too strong, too much advantage. So you can see why. And then we have Agavale V series, which in the Japanese is restricted to 1. And in the English is completely unrestricted, so English thinks that Agavale is a completely reasonable card, but the Japanese version doesn't think. It's this Counterblast 1 on Vanguard Circle. Look at the top 3 cards of your deck, call 1 and put 2 to the bottom in any order. And then whenever it attacks, you can put a card to soul from the field, and it gives it 10k, and then it returns to hand after that attack is finished. It gives you like shield, or an extra card to call again. It can't be retired next turn, or during your opponent's turn. So it's a very strong card. It's a very useful card in the Gold Paladin engine. And that is the video for today, guys. I hope you learned something. The Gold Paladins are a really strong clan, and they've made some powerful cards. And also the United Sanctuary, why the Zeroth Dragon of Zenith Peak Ultimate is also a very strong card and not used in many decks. Gold Paladins, oddly enough, are the ones that use it the most, because it's the one that can utilize the Superior Calling mechanism and all of that to a more useful way. So anyway, guys, I'd just like to thank you guys so much for watching. We're so close to 100 subscribers. You guys are amazing. I really appreciate you all, and I will see you guys in the next video.